welcome to Decision Point. There's a positive new initiative to speed the healing process for our wounded men and women in uniform. It's called the Military Adaptive Sports Program, and Mark Cattapan is the coordinator. And he has brought today to our studios two of our wounded warriors, Lieutenant Colonel John Van Aken and Chief Kimberly Lamberton are with us to tell their story. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Holly.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, well, you're very welcome, and thanks for taking the time out to be here. John, can you tell us a little bit about how you got to be part of this program, a little bit of your story?
I was returning from Afghanistan, and I was processing through Fort Bliss and had some medical issues, so they allowed me to stay in the Wounded Warrior program here at Fort Bliss, where I get medical treatment until I'm fit to return to duty or whatever future is going to happen.
So can you tell us a little bit about your time in Afghanistan? I mean, are we talking about sort of Traumatic injuries or stress-related injuries, that kind of thing? What are we? Can it be kind of any?
It can be any injuries. In my particular case, most of my physical injuries are just normal wear and tear. I'm just aging, and after spending a year in Afghanistan, a lot of those things just presented themselves, and they were able to help with some physical therapy and treatment for those things. So, and I'm right now ready to return to duty, so I'll be leaving here shortly to go back and serve in the military.
Right. And so, what was your role in Afghanistan?
I had a great opportunity. I worked for a year as the senior advisor and team chief to the Afghan's National Military Academy, which is modeled exactly after our West Point. So it's a 4-year bachelor's degree program, about 2,000 students that they're getting a bachelor's degree while they're training to be commissioned as lieutenants in the Afghan Army.
And what did you think about your experience with the Afghan military versus U.S. military? It must be very different culturally, right?
It is a little different. They're based on our military, so in a lot of ways they're very similar. And I was around college students who were going to college, taking college classes. They wore military uniforms and were preparing to serve in the military. What I found really neat was that over the 4 years you saw them progress, and as the kids graduated they were very motivated, really, really excited about serving their country. And again, very fortunate that they were able to get a full 4-year degree, a bachelor's degree, so they would go serve their country that way.
Well, it's interesting because we, hear such a limited amount and kind of skewed version of things in about Afghanistan from our media, and so what you're telling us is that there are actually a lot of young people out there in Afghans who are ready and willing and going to be able to serve, right?
Yes. And the Afghans that I dealt with were college students, so they had been accepted into a bachelor's degree program. It was very competitive. 10,000 students applied. Wow. 400 or 500 are admitted. So, and they come from every province in the country. They come from every ethnic group, and they live, work, go to school together, and are very happy to be there together.
Yeah. Well, that's unusual because we hear about all the tribalism and everything and warring factions within the Afghan community, but here's actually everyone working together.
And actually there's very distinct different tribes, ethnicities in Afghanistan, but there's not much warring amongst them. They live well together. Right. So, and again, it was initially when the school started, they did have some problems, but for the time that I was there were no ethnic issues at all. The kids got along very well, just as any college student would.
Right. So Mark, can you tell us kind of what is the mission of the Military Adaptive Sports Program? Because isn't it part of a bigger program?
Yes, I am part of the Warrior Transition Battalion. Each of those battalions, I believe there's 30-something odd throughout the nation. And the Military Adaptive Sports Program is under the Office of Warrior Care Policy, and our mission is to engage soldiers who are recovering from wounds, injuries, and illness into activities, mostly physical activities, skiing, bicycling, kayaking, on a daily basis to help their healing process. If you keep your body active, it's more likely to heal. The recovery time is lessened through activities. We have sport activities. We also have photography, cooking, yoga, those kind of things that actually help engage a soldier in finding something that brings them closer to healing, a quicker healing, something to engage themselves their attention on something positive, and that in turn is part of the process of their healing process, because their mission in the Warrior Transition Battalion is to heal and to either go back to the job they had, maybe find another job, or maybe actually get medically retired from the Army and then become a civilian.
So whatever it is, it's a temporary sort of thing that they're in for 6 months or a year or so, and then they move one direction or the other.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and they're getting treatment, they're getting evaluated medically, and they're getting medical treatment, basically 6 months to a year, and then after that time they get reevaluated and placed somewhere.
Right. Okay. Now, Kimberly, you had a very interesting job when you were, was it Afghanistan also,
Yes.
or Iraq? Or Afghanistan. Okay, could tell us a little bit about how you ended up in this particular program also.
I'm in the WTB because of injuries that I sustained while I was in Afghanistan. I was involved in a helicopter accident, and that's why I'm here.
So you were
ultimately,
a Black Hawk?
I'm a Black Hawk pilot.
Yeah, Black Hawk pilot. Okay, all right. So we don't want to mess with you, huh?
Fair enough.
Yeah, right. And so when both John and Kimberly, in terms of what has this program meant to you? What are you involved in from the standpoint of the sports perspective?
I primarily got involved initially in cycling and branched out just a little bit into a few more sports, kayaking, hoping to be a part of the equine therapy program that's coming on board just now, actually. So I'm doing some volunteering with them on the weekends, and but cycling was my primary.
And you're a pretty good cyclist, right?
Yeah.
Didn't you compete in?
I did compete in the Valor Games. That was back in
September.
And you did well.
I did well. I took gold.
I think that's pretty good.
Yeah,
No,
I'm happy with it.
right. And what are the Valor Games?
The Valor Games are basically a regional game that's put on for wounded warriors and veterans, and basically there's a variety of sports that they can compete in: kayaking, cycling, archery, air guns, a couple more, I think. I might be forgetting a few, but pretty much anybody who's been injured or is a veteran can come out and compete, and it's a way to get involved and meet other veterans and see people doing things and living their life even if they have limitations. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And John, what do you do with
I've been involved in cycling and snowboarding.
snowboarding?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So for me, it's been a great opportunity to get out and stay active. The best for me was just being around other people and doing other things. So you get kind of focused on your own recovery, but to get a chance to get out and interact with other people and be active and do something is really great.
Now, how about, what do you think this program has done for you, and would it, if you didn't have this program, do you think your recovery would have been as good?
For me, this has been phenomenal. I mean, just getting on a bike, I never would have done this on my own. So I had the opportunity to try something new that I wouldn't have done before. It gives me an outlet to be with other people, to be active, to be away from the daily grind of trying to get through the recovery process. And again, like Mark said, you're with other people that are doing something, and you really feed off that energy. Because you're losing something. You know, most of us are leaving the military, and you know, we joined the military because of who we are, and it's not something we can do anymore. So we've got to find new outlets to help us stay active, involved, and enthusiastic. So
yeah, and how about you, Kimberly? What has this meant to you, and what would have happened if you didn't have this opportunity to get active and compete and all of that?
I'm in the same boat as John. This really changed my perspective on being here. I came from California, and I struggled with the move to Texas, and getting out and getting on a bike made such a huge difference for me, just mentally, physically. I got to be around people, but at the same time, it gave me back the ability to be myself, is what it felt like. I felt like I lost something when I came here and had to give up my job, basically. And when I got on that bike, I was Kimberly again.
So in terms of when you were wounded and so forth, and your prognosis was, you're going to have to go through a recovery period, and you're going to have to cope with some losses or stresses that perhaps you didn't cope with before. What was that like when you realized that you were faced with that?
For me, and again, I had a great job in Afghanistan. I was really involved every day in making a difference in people's lives and really engaged, and I really enjoyed it. And then you come back and you lose that. So it's a real feeling of loss to not have that ability to contribute. And when what you're doing every day is so important. I mean, you're in a dangerous place, but you're providing and helping and making a difference. It's very tough to give that up. So this has given me a chance to sort of it's reflect and relax and kind of get back moving and doing something. So it's been really good for me.
And in terms of your family and that kind of thing, how has it affected your transition? Because you're married, right? And you have grown children.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
I think that's one of the challenges here is you're still separated from your family. So it does, in a way it helps. It sort of eases that transition. It's not coming back from Afghanistan and just going home and trying to make that adjustment right away. So you've got some time to ease into that transition. But I'm certainly better now than I would have been had I gone straight home. So it's been very good in that way.
What kind of issues do soldiers in general face, Mark, when they come into this program? What are some of the types of injuries we're talking about, both physical, mental, emotional?
It's all of the above. Depending on what situation, where they were, what unit they're in. Throughout the nation, some of the most visible injuries are amputations, but that's probably only about maybe 4% of all the injuries are amputations because of the armor, because of advances in technology. More of the injuries are coming back are more invisible, so to speak. So those are the psychological, the emotional, the spiritual even. Those are more vastly greater in number than the visible injuries.
So what are some of the kinds of things that, in addition to this program, what are the other sort of services and things that these people are able to take advantage of?
Other components of the Warrior Transition Battalion include educational and career opportunities. There's somebody there trying to find work for them, trying to find educational opportunities. One of the benefits of being in the military is the GI Bill. So they help guide them using that, basically that tuition they've earned through service, finding what their career path is going to be in the civilian world, possibly in the military world, continuation of that. But that GI Bill is there for them to go back to school, learn a new skill or trade. That's one of them. There's social workers who help them deal with their family problems. Like John was saying, you're coming back. The Transition Battalion is a buffer between that being in Afghanistan and being thrown back into the family environment. So there's a little bit of social work available. There's psychological counseling. There's a whole support network through the Warrior Transition Battalion, opportunities for soldiers to engage the full spectrum of their life, their career, their spirituality, their emotions, the mental aspects, the social aspects, and their family aspects. Every component of healing is basically there's someone there. There's a team of people here to serve in the Warrior Transition Battalion.
Yeah.
And adaptive sports is my particular role.
There's also support for the family and for caregivers. So many soldiers are going to need help taking care of themselves, and that's going to fall on their family. So there's support for that part of the transition as well. Right. So, and with the Warrior Transition Unit, they've taken all of the services that are available really to every service member. Everybody that's in the Army or in the military is going to transition out at some point. So there's lots of services there. With the Warrior Transition Units, they focused a lot of this in one place and really provided that support.
Sort of a one-stop shop.
It's very much a one-stop shop and very focused, and so, and again, it's there to make a transition. It's not there as a permanent change. It's you're transitioning from one part of your life to another part of your life.
Right, yeah. So, Kimberly, what was it like for you in Afghanistan?
It was an experience for me. I was involved, as I told you, in a helicopter accident fairly early on in the very beginning of my deployment, and it was of no fault of our own. Our wingman just accidentally ran into us, and luckily nobody got hurt. But I continued to fly after that, and I was struggling with some issues that I didn't even realize at the time I was struggling with. And so it became kind of a personal battle for me to be over there and just continue to do my job and get through the rest of the deployment, which I did.
Right. And so we don't realize the kind of emotional toll that it takes to be in the various situations that you encounter. Especially, you would have been part of some active military engagement, I would presume, right?
Yes. But as far as my experience compared to John's, I didn't get to interact very much with the local population. So I got to see the troops, and I saw a lot of the landscape, for example, but I didn't actually get to interact on the level that he did.
So it really is, when we're talking about deployment, we're talking about an incredible variety of experiences that, you know, could, just like people in jobs here, from that standpoint, it could be a variety of different things. So what was, at what point was kind of your lowest point when you realized, okay, I think that I want to get some help and try to deal with some of these issues? Was it?
It actually wasn't until after I came back. I knew that I didn't feel good. I knew something wasn't wrong, but I kept thinking that I could fix it. That's a personality complex I think that a lot of soldiers have. We're taught that we need to be strong.
Right.
And it took me about 6 months, and over the progression of 6 months, once I returned from Afghanistan, I slowly got worse, and then I began gradually reaching out to different organizations, Military One Source, I utilized them, behavioral health, and a couple others, and eventually it just got to the point where I knew something was truly wrong, and I went to the doctor and I grounded myself. And that's when I started to get the help that I needed to get, and was transferred over to Fort Bliss.
So that must have taken a lot of courage to say, I'm not coping the way that I want to be coping, and I need some help.
It's an incredible humbling of yourself, and it also means you have to accept that there's going to be a change. It's going to be a change you don't want, and maybe you don't know what's going to happen now. But yes, it's a difficult decision to make.
Right.
I would encourage any soldier, if they're struggling, to go ahead and make that decision, because there's this stigma that if you do reach out for help, that you're going to be stereotyped, or, you know, whatever it is that keeps them from contacting somebody and reaching out and, you know, getting that help. Whatever keeps them back, I would say don't think about that too much. When you need the help and you think that you need the help, go ahead and get the help, because it's there.
Right. And what about you, John? What was your kind of low point?
I did not have a low point in Afghanistan. I had a wonderful tour, but when I got back, it was, and I think that's a lot of it. You've got a mission to do. You've got a job to do, and you're in a place where you don't have any choice but to do it. So you make it through. But it was hard coming back. It was, and it snuck up on me. I did not realize how different it was going to be when I got back. So it was, I had a great experience in Afghanistan. One of the things that hit me was how quickly I became so close with the people I worked with. And then you have to leave them behind, or, you know, leave and transition. And then you get back, and you have to face the fact that you're no longer going to be able to have that kind of impact and make that kind of difference. And, you know, what you were doing, long days, difficult situation, but it was rewarding, and so it was really hard to face that.
And so it sounds like, unless it's some kind of a physical injury that happens and you have to cope with it immediately, that a lot of this type of thing creeps up on you when you come back and you're in that transition phase and you're trying to restart your life here stateside, and all of a sudden, like you're saying, Kimberly, you realize that something's not right.
Well, the other trick you have when you're deployed, you're with a bunch of people that are in the same situation.
Right.
So whether you're just talking over dinner or you're talking in the barracks, you've got somebody right there that's doing the same thing, and you're sharing the same experience. When you get back, you sort of get disconnected from that. So it's again, and particularly if you're transitioning out of the military. And if you come back and you're going onto your next unit, your next assignment, you still have that. But for those that are transitioning back to civilian life or going back home, it is a big adjustment. So there is some challenges to that.
Now, Mark, when you, in working with these people, this is kind of a dream come true for you. Tell us a little bit about how you got involved.
The first part of my story is actually, the tough part. My coworker's son died in 2006 in Iraq as a Marine, and I went to his funeral, and that's where the seed was planted in my heart, was at the funeral. That's where I felt like God was speaking. He planted that seed that, for me, that moment was my personal 9/11. I felt a calling that started on that day, and I started volunteering with a nonprofit to help injured military through adaptive sports. And after 5 years of volunteering and 2 years of searching for work and a career change, a transition for myself, I had this opportunity, and so it's a dream come true to do this 40, 50, 55 hours a week, whatever it takes. Whereas before, when I was volunteering, it was more a side thing I did for 20 hours a week at max. So I'm fully, this is my mission.
And definitely, as you said, it's a calling. And so what does it involve? So you actually kind of identify and coordinate activities? Is that how you
exactly,
your
yeah.
job?
I develop programming with the help of folks in the community that have any kind of adaptive sport or activity, therapeutic in nature. There was a little bit going on here when I got here, but I think we're up to 7 activities with 3 more coming online. We'll be up to 10 adaptive activities that the soldiers will be offered while they're in the WTB.
And how many people are involved in the programs?
Well, the inception of the program, the Military Adaptive Sports Program, was in 2011, and there's been over 110,000 service members been engaged in adaptive activities since 2011.
So that's a fair amount, definitely.
Yeah, and my particular position, I got here at Fort Bliss in April of last year, 2013.
So, what about the whole spiritual component? How has that played a role in your recovery, John?
Spiritual is actually part of the Army's resiliency program, and it's a little different definition for the military, but it's about your own beliefs and core values and well-being. For me, I mean, it's critical. For me, it's what makes me keep going. It's why I'm trying to do better, and I need to contribute, and that's why I'm getting better. So it's been a big help for me.
And so the spiritual counseling and worship and that kind of thing has been part of your recovery also?
Yes, it has.
Yeah, right. And how about you, Kimberly, from the spiritual standpoint, where are you with that, and what part has that played in your recovery?
I think it's played a big part. I'm always amazed because I constantly see God. And even when I harden my heart or I forget that He's there, He always reminds me. And for example, when I started cycling, it was no accident, I don't believe, that Mark had just taken over the program, and he happened to be a Christian. And while on the rides, I was able to talk to somebody about my beliefs and about God and how I felt. And that branched out to a Bible study that they offer on post. And I just got to be in connection with others that have the same core belief system, and that helps you build up from within.
So, so the Christian spirituality and that kind of thing has been important. In terms of has this experience helped to develop your beliefs, strengthen your beliefs, or were they shaken initially a little bit?
I don't think my beliefs were shaken. The adaptive sports program is a way to be active and be in touch, and I think it's again, anything you can do to help you move forward and better yourself is going to help with that. And it certainly has played a part in the whole recovery process. And fortunately, again, the Army makes that part of the program. Again, everybody's spirituality is different, so there's no pressure to have a certain belief, but it is part of your recovery, as you need to look at that as one of the aspects of your recovery.
Yeah. And what kind of hurdles have you had to overcome in terms of getting to where you are now?
Spiritually speaking, or
yeah, well, yeah,
physically speaking?
Either one, whatever.
I think, especially soldiers in the warrior transition unit really struggle with a general sense of loss of identity and depression. Not because it's a bad environment; they have all the opportunities that are available to them, but it's struggling to get out there, accept that your life has changed in some way, and that you're going to have to move forward. Mm-hmm. And that step forward can be difficult for a lot of people. Right. It was difficult for me. Mm-hmm. And it has been a challenge. It's been a challenge spiritually, it's been a challenge physically, emotionally, and I think that's the same for a lot of people in the same position that I'm in.
Right.
I agree. I don't want to take this uniform off. I'm really, it's not that I'm proud. I enjoy what I do. It is who I am. And I have to change that. I have to find a new me now, because it's time for me to change careers and do something different. So this has given me the opportunity to really understand myself better and help prepare for that transition.
Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing so openly with us. And Mark, thank you very much for arranging all of this.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it and appreciate the work that you're doing. And do you know of an activity, sport, or club which might be able to include a wounded warrior? Please contact Mark Cattapan and let him know and see what he thinks about it. Do you think that we are doing enough for these noble men and women? Tell me on Facebook, Twitter, or kscetv.com. I want to know what you think. Thank you for watching.